right, guys, welcome to episode 3 of season 2. Today, we are very lucky to have Dr. Cynthia Archer here with us. Whoop, whoop, yeah. Like we're going to talk about pharmacy. Why is it important as a pre-med and as a med student to be involved in that? Why you should know the status quo of it, and all that jazz. So, Cynthia, welcome. Welcome to the Premed Live.
Thank you for having me.
It's an honor. It's an honor to having you. As you all can see, I'm repping my, World Cup hat. Definitely, yeah.
Go Black Stars.
Supporting my country out here.
Yeah.
Ghana is definitely gonna win the World Cup. Mark that on the wall.
Amen. Let's keep hope alive.
Right? We gotta keep the hope up. But yeah, guys, Cynthia has been a great anchor for me, especially like my senior year of high school, transitioning to college and all that. She was very key in that. So one of my big sisters out there. So I'm very glad to have her here today. Cynthia, can you tell us, a little bit about yourself? Yeah.
Okay, so like you already said, my name is Cynthia Archer. What else? My educational background, I did my undergrad in Binghamton University. I studied biology and Africana studies, and I went on to pharmacy school at Frederick Dickinson University. And I'm currently a mom.
Yeah.
I'm mom, so I'm busy.
You can hear the kids out there.
You can hear the kids in the background. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna dive into motherhood a little bit, so a little bit unorthodox for the Premed Live book, but hey, we are here for it. So, Cynthia, I'm curious, who was Cynthia back in high school?
High school. Yeah. Cynthia had moved from Ghana in 10th grade, in the 10th grade, so she was still like learning American culture, adjusting to a new environment. High school, I didn't really like high school. It was like a culture shock, like going to high school in the Bronx, getting used to like I said before, American culture, and I didn't like my high school because it was a very small school. We didn't have a lot of classes. Like, okay, when you're in Ghana, right, you expect that when you go to college, you take all these classes like biology, chemistry, physics. You'll be ready for med school. At that time, I wanted to go to med school, but it's like we didn't have that. My school was a school for writing and communication arts, so the focus was on like creative arts, and I didn't mind that. I actually used to like to write, so that part I like. We used to write plays and produce plays, which was interesting. But I didn't. One second.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. So as I was saying, the focus wasn't what I was interested in at that time. So high school was just like trying to get into college and just try to see if the future that I had in mind would be possible, because it didn't look like it, And I mean, I don't know how familiar you are with public schools in the Bronx, but the education, the level of education, the resources, it's not the same as you would get, in other parts of the country, like the inner city educational system, the kids, and, they have, some of them have really difficult backgrounds, so they're not that interested in whatever the school has to offer, but I try to make the best out of it. It was a very small school. My graduating class was like 70 people. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a small school. Yeah, it was one of the big high schools in the Bronx that were broken down. So Van der Charles, that was the campus, and my school was the high school for writing and communication arts. So Van der Charles was one big school, and it was broken down into 6 schools. So just imagine having 6 different schools in one high school. Yeah, that's what it was. So I made the best out of it. I tried to get them to start a physics class, and they were like, okay, if you can petition and get X number of people to sign the
Wow.
petition, we will start the class. But
There was no physics class in this school?
there was no physics class.
That's
And
crazy.
yeah, because they didn't
Wow.
prioritize science. They did not.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. So even for biology, it wasn't real biology, it was living environment. I don't know how I don't because New York
Yeah,
State you
yeah,
have to take
I
living
understand.
environment, the
Yeah,
regions, right? So that's all we did.
regions.
That was it.
Right.
Like basic, very basic biology. And we had chemistry. That was another story. But because our chemistry class was like taught by a PhD holder. So he
Ooh.
was, I don't know if he tried to get into college, like to teach in a college, and didn't happen, and he ended up in high school. My goodness. He,
You
he
guys,
had
you
like all
guys, you
these,
guys were his college students.
yes, he had all these high expectations. And you have these kids that don't have any background. So first of all, they don't have the interest and they don't have a proper background. So they were just not having they were
Yeah.
not having it. They gave me a real tough time. So I remember like
Wow.
it wasn't pleasant at all. But I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn some chemistry. So I was actually happy for that class. I was only one semester and that was it. And
Mm.
the physics didn't happen because I literally went around, gave people the paper, and they're like, physics, isn't that hard? No.
Right.
Yeah. So
Right.
that high school,
Hmm.
I was positive that I would soon leave. But I wasn't that like it wasn't the like one of the best years, you know what I'm saying? Like how people
Yeah.
like college compared to college, high school was just surviving,
Yeah.
surviving.
Surviving. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
So to college. How was college then?
college was great.
Okay.
College was great because college helped me to see a different side of America, and it I felt like it was the educational environment that I I was expecting it to be. Like you had different classes. You could take so many different classes. There was a
Mm.
variety. There are people from all walks of life, and they're all mature. They were more mature than my high school classmates, and people actually wanted to be there. They wanted to study. They're not just there because they want to get their diploma. And I met many, 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 many amazing people that I'm still friends with till today. And
Yeah.
college, I learned so many things about myself. But like it was a lot of self discovery, like realizing the things that you actually care about, and like what you've been conditioned to think you want. And I mean, to
Mm.
explain further, it's like in Ghana, right? You know how
Yeah.
everybody's doing the same thing, right? So I feel like in Ghana, it's like we're all taking the same classes up until like college, right? And even in college, if you get into medicine, everybody's taking the same classes for like 6 years, right? Pretty much.
Yep.
But with being in college here, it's like you get to pick your own classes. You get to learn different things. You get to see, okay, do I really like medicine? Do I really like science? Do I really like these classes I'm taking? Or I just felt like I had to do them, you know? So
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was a lot of learning, realizing the things you don't like, and then, bettering yourself. So college was great. Yeah. Yeah,
Okay. All
definitely.
right. As a Farm D, like pretty much you had to take organic chemistry, right? Like some
Right.
point in time. Okay, we'll
Right.
get there. But first, why did you bail out of medicine? Like you just pharmacy is kind of part of medicine, but like your dreams on becoming a doctor,
Yeah.
an MD. Like
Right. I feel like
yeah,
why did I bail out of great question. There were
yeah,
so many reasons. And so one of the things was when you actually realize what it entails, right? When you go into the deep biology, you take all these classes and you realize,
yeah,
I can survive in these classes. I can study and pass, right? But I don't enjoy and how you don't enjoy
mm,
them. And also the whole process of medicine, right? I don't think I was as informed in high school, or even if I was, I didn't realize how long the process will be. And I remember I took long and difficult actually. I took an MCAT practice exam. I think I was a junior in college, and
Yeah.
I was in the exam with this practice exam. Like I was like, what is this? I actually put, I put my head on the
Oh man.
table and took a nap because I was like,
Ooh,
no, this is
it's
not
not
for
it.
me. This is
This is
not.
not it.
This is not for
Oh
me.
man.
And you know,
Mm,
whenever people ask you, oh, why do you want to be a doctor? I want to help people. I want to help people. I want to help people. But then
yeah.
college helped me to realize there's not one single way you can help
Mm,
people. Like it's not like with and I compare it to Ghana a lot because I feel like Ghana formed certain notions that I had about medicine, about what your career should be. Because I feel like in Ghana, right, all the smart people, almost all the smart people become doctors or
mhm.
lawyers or um
Engineers,
engineers. Yeah,
yeah.
right. It's like it's specific things, and then it's like if okay, somebody gets straight A's, eight A's
Yeah.
on WASI, everybody's expecting that. Oh,
Straight up.
you become
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
But for the first time, you realize, okay, what do I really want for my life? Like,
Mm,
do I want this process? And I was also seeing a lot of people that their grades were not good enough, right? After undergrad, even though they worked so hard, they didn't get the grades for med school. So they'll be doing like a gap year or a post back
mm.
and then, or a master's, and then they go to med school. And honestly, I didn't see that for myself. I didn't
The
see
whole
that
long process. You're like,
yeah,
no,
I would be going through that long process, you know, to
yeah.
better my grades or to become a better candidate. So I was like, you know, I don't think this is for me. So let me look into other areas. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. So thank you for that insight. Yeah. Like I know people are curious. Anyway, so organic chemistry. I know people are waiting for this. That class is a huge obstacle, like for a lot of people
Right.
who want to go into medicine. How
Right.
was that experience for you? Yeah.
Okay. So honestly, to be completely honest, Orgo wasn't that bad, right?
Okay, I'm
I
gonna
felt
pause there. For a pharmacist, like yeah, great. So tell us, like
no,
tell us the
no.
skills that the tips or the tricks that you use to help you in that class. Yeah.
I honestly feel like okay, so when I was going into I was about to take Orgo, right? I took Orgo late in
Yeah.
my junior year. Somebody told me that's too late to take Orgo, but that's because I
Mm,
didn't take chemistry in my freshman year. So I couldn't take Orgo till my junior year because I had to take chemistry in my sophomore year, right?
yeah.
So okay, when I was going into it, everybody was like, the professor's name is Professor Kislin. Everybody says she's cool, she is
Mm,
this, she is that. So going into it, you're thinking, oh, this is about to be the hardest thing of my life. I bought the textbook, everything.
mm,
So I realized, okay, this is just a language of its own, right?
yeah.
It's not too bad. Once you try to you apply yourself, right? And I don't think I applied myself
Mm,
because I feel like I was just trying to get by. I was just trying to get by. And then in the end, there was a curve and I got a
oh,
B and I was like, oh, if I had applied myself,
right.
I could have gotten an A in this class. But
Right.
I was just like, oh, goes hard. Blah, blah, blah. But it's like, you realize it's not as hard as people make it seem, right? It's not an easy class, but I feel like all girls like calculus. Like once you understand the language, it's doable,
Okay.
right? And then with organic chemistry too, I
Yeah.
ended up taking it in the summer with this Kenyan professor, and he was the best.
Okay.
So it was
During the
actually
summer.
good
So what's
for
that
me.
like 4 weeks?
4 weeks, yes.
Mm,
But it was actually a better experience than taking the semester. He was a better teacher, and the material was way. I felt like it was way easier. I think maybe his style of
okay.
teaching, and also the fact that I was taking that one class, right? So I was zoned in, spending time studying. You're not distracted. You're not
Yeah.
trying to deal with all your other classes, and you also have less people on campus you can interact with, so it's just you and a few other people. So I did way better. I don't even remember what I got, but it was a better experience. Yeah,
Yeah.
one, the professor, and also like the environment in general.
Right. Right.
But
Okay.
I think organic chemistry, people dread it.
Yeah.
It's either you like it or you don't, right? But I
Right.
think
Yeah.
it's not as bad as people
Okay. Do you think that
make.
teachers some do you think that some teachers make it, harder than they're supposed to be? Like,
I think so. I think some teachers make it harder than it's supposed to be, and some teachers
yeah.
cannot teach. they cannot teach the material. So it's like already this is a hard class, but they present it in a way that makes it even harder. Yeah. So that's what I said. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Did you use flashcards like I guess YouTube videos like back
YouTube
then?
videos. I went to tutoring, I think. Or was it
Tutoring.
for
Okay.
general chemistry? Yeah, and I actually used the textbook when it came to Orgo. I used the textbook.
Okay.
Yeah, and I remember the drawings. I still have my Orgo notebook here. It was like I used to go to class, take notes. I went to the professor had office hours, right? And I went to a big public school. So it was like maybe organic chemistry had maybe 400 people, I think. So she would have office hours and her office hours would be like 100 people. That's another thing. Like
wow.
I started going like towards the end of the semester and I was like, I should have been doing this every week, right? Because she breaks everything down. And she asks you questions. You can ask her questions. So just imagine if that's what I was saying. If I had applied myself, I could have excelled in the class. But yeah, I started going. I was like, oh, I feel like I could have done better. But I think everything coupled with that notion that this class is so difficult. You just
yeah.
Mindset. It's part of the mindset. Yeah.
That's like half of the battle.
Once you go think, okay, this is something I can do, right? I've done general chemistry. This is something I can manage. And then you apply yourself. I put in extra work, and you take Orgo with easy classes or classes that don't require too much effort so that you can spend so much time on Orgo because it takes time. Like it's a language, but once you get it and you're able to do the structures and the reaction, you're like, oh wow, like this is actually fun. Yeah.
That's it. So moving on with pharmacy. So how was pharmacy school? Why are you laughing?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so it wasn't that bad. Honestly, it wasn't that bad. But here's the thing, right? I feel like I did 4 years of college, right? And in my mind, I have to finish school early. Like, so I took I even ended up taking some other prereqs that summer before pharmacy school. And because I wanted to go to grad school right after college, right? And honestly, after a while, you know that you're burnt out. Like, like maybe it wouldn't have been bad to at least take a break, But it wasn't bad. Pharmacy school was actually more manageable than I thought. I think when you're in college and you think of professional school, you think, oh my God, you'll be studying every day, you'll be doing so much. But it wasn't like you just go to the class. We used to record our lectures. So you record, you come home, listen. And for my first year, I was living on the dorm, in the dorm on campus, right? And I had these friends that were very studious. My roommates were very studious. And I learned a thing or two from them because they come home and then right when they get home, they listen to the recording and they add on to their notes. And they listen to the recording over and over and over again. And then they were memorizing the notes. I couldn't memorize. That's not how I study. So I would just listen to the recording over and over again. So sometimes you just are like casually around and then you're just like lazing around, whatever, and then you're still listening to the recording because you actually grasp information that way. So it wasn't pharmacy school was fun. Actually, it wasn't bad. It's like as compared to college, it was like finally you're focusing on one thing, right? And you're also with a bunch of people that are focusing on that one thing. So your friends, the people you interact on a daily, they're all working towards this goal, right? So it wasn't too bad. Like it was great. You're finally almost a professional. You're learning different things. some things are harder than others, but like it's a whole different world. And I
Yeah.
enjoyed it. Yeah. The
Mugenge,
material wasn't that
mugenge
bad.
pa,
Oh, oh,
mugenge.
oh, oh, oh.
Oh
No, no,
man,
no, no. Like
y'all,
it
y'all
was
should visit a med school one day.
oh yeah, med school. Med school's a whole different story.
Oh man, but honestly though, honestly
Mhm.
speaking, what kind of stuff were you guys learning? Like, because I've heard like there's this book of like all these like different drugs that you have to
Drugs.
learn.
Yeah.
But like, is that where you guys like? Yeah.
Okay, so you're learning the way my school did it. I think some schools you just take maybe pharmacokinetics, right? And you
Mm,
just take it in one class, right? And then you do the therapeutics in one class. But what my school did was they did it by systems. So if you're doing cardio, you're learning the pharmacokinetics of all the cardiology drugs, of the therapeutics of all the cardiology. You're learning the diseases, everything in one class. And then you move on to oncology. We did autoimmune diseases, infectious diseases. So
mm,
everything was grouped by either the kind of disease it was or the body system it was. So we didn't have traditional textbooks. Everything we had all our books were online. It's like if you wanted to actually read the books for yourself, they were online. But our professors like gave you everything in their notes, right? So you didn't have to like go read a book, and that was like, another good thing that I liked about my school.
okay.
Um, yeah, it can be a lot of information, but the way it is, you learn the drugs as you go, right?
Okay.
So it's not and okay, so I think most people in their first semester they have to know the top 200 drugs. That was not our case. We didn't do top 200 until I think third third year. So P3 we did top 200. So you didn't have to like know all these drugs once you're in school. So it wasn't like they're bombarding you with all this information at a
Yeah.
go, right?
Okay.
But it's also not easy information. It's like
Mm,
stuff that you have to sit with and like learn. Like it's a lot of learning, right? But it's like after a while you're used to the language
mm,
and you're used to the material, right? So let's say I think that our first class was cardio and gastro, right?
okay.
So once you do cardio and gastro, you know therapeutics, you know how pharmacokinetics, that's how things work, da 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 da, right? Once you move on to autoimmune diseases, you know it's gonna follow that pattern. So you start with the system and then move on to the diseases, how to diagnose the disease, and then the drugs, right?
Yeah.
And then if there are new drugs, clinical trials, things like that. So you learn how the pattern goes and you're able to study that way, right?
Okay.
It wasn't so bad. I think like my most difficult class was infectious disease.
Okay.
And because it was a lot, the microbiome was a lot for me. Like the gram positive, the gram negative,
Mm,
and then you have to know what treats what. I could not. Like I tried,
yeah.
I could not. Yeah. But now that the pandemic happened and
Talk about
Fauci's
that.
changing his mouth
Fauci.
every second, I feel like people can
Yes.
appreciate
Oh.
they can appreciate the infectious disease. It's not an
Uh,
easy it's not an
yeah.
easy topic, yeah, because viruses and bacteria, this works for them. If this works, if this doesn't work, you use this. But it's like there's so many clauses, but
Right.
overall, it's like manageable
Oh, there
material.
are a lot of like if this then that, if this
If
then
this,
that. I see.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah, it was a lot.
Hmm.
Like if
Interesting.
infectious disease was just a lot of information, and it's like I said, I don't memorize things, right? I try to
Yeah.
like understand what's going on, and then do my best. But
Right.
with infectious disease, my best was not enough. It wasn't because it's like okay, I can learn this is gram negative bacteria, this is gram positive, right? If it's broad spectrum, you treat with this. If
Mm,
it's narrow, you treat with that. So it's like
yeah.
you can learn those things, but when it goes to the specifics, it's like, hey,
Right.
I don't know,
Right. Not easy. Not
yeah.
okay. Did
But
you take biochemistry
I took biochemistry the
in
summer
college?
before I went to. The
Okay.
summer before I went to pharmacy school. Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I took it at Lehman College.
You did. Okay.
I
Okay. Who
did.
was your
Yeah.
professor?
Oh, I don't remember.
That's fine.
I don't.
Okay.
I don't remember. It was
Yeah.
the sumber.
That's fine. That's fine.
I'll try to spell. I don't remember the
So,
name. I think it was a lady. I think was it?
okay.
Yeah, it was a lady. Yeah.
All right. What was that? Well, so pretty much it's like if you're talking about biochemistry, it's probably like the same tips that you had for
Mm-hmm.
right too.
Right.
Okay. Office hours, tutoring,
Tutoring.
hours,
Get all the help. Get all the help.
textbook, all that.
Yeah. And I think like
Yeah.
initially, like in college, when I first went, it's like, oh, you're trying to do everything on your own, thinking, oh, I got this. I should be able to do this. You know, I'm smart. I should be able. If you need help, you need help. Like there's
Yeah.
no, yeah, there's no shame in getting help.
We all need help
Yeah, we
sometime.
all need help sometimes. So get the
Yeah.
help that you need. Get concepts explained to you. I remember one time I was struggling in general chemistry, and I went to tutoring. There was this Ghanaian girl that actually offered, so I went for her tutoring hours. She was in the EOP program, but I wasn't part of EOP, so like she actually squeezed me in to come get tutoring, and it was clear. Like everything was so clear after the tutoring session. I'm like, I should have come earlier, you know.
Mm.
And I don't like. There's no shame in getting help. There's
There is
whatever.
no shame in getting help,
Yeah,
guys.
there is it.
You know. Yeah. Yeah.
There is it.
That's an important point. Okay. All right. So now like the cream de la cream of like the whole conversation itself, right? Like, so now what do you think is the bridge between pharmacy and medicine? I mean, there's a lot of overlap there. COVID, all that. Um, yeah, let's talk about that and then we'll move on to like things about you finish this question and then we'll move on
Okay.
to greater stuff.
Oh, that's a
Yeah.
huge bridge. That's a huge bridge.
Yeah.
Like pharmacy is definitely needed as a what do you call it? As a physician or as a surgeon, like in medicine,
Yeah.
you need your pharmacology, right? And I've heard people say in med school, I have a friend that went to med school and she's like, oh, pharmacology was such a tough class for her. I don't know how you study that, blah blah blah. And like it's needed, right? Because
Yeah.
I see there's a lot of like collaborative practice approach now where pharmacists work closely together with doctors and maybe nurses and nurse practitioners, like to discuss treatment for a patient, because it's very, very necessary to know why you're choosing this medication and what effects it will have on the patient, and to know like if it will actually treat and for how long. Also, it's important to know the patient's age, their race, and what medication will be best for them. And I cannot emphasize
It's a
on it
whole lot,
enough.
right?
It's a whole lot, because my dad has hypertension, right? And I remember some time ago I think he was on lisinopril, and we know African Americans don't do so well on ACE inhibitors because it can cause angioedema and all these other things. Like the first line should be calcium channel blockers, I believe. I don't know if that has changed. So he was on that, and I was like, okay, can you see if he can give you something else? And I think it was changed to amlodipine, and he was doing better on that, right? But sometimes doctors don't factor these things like race, like age, like gender into making these decisions, because maybe they've tried this medication for their general patient population. It always works.
Yeah.
But,
See, that's one thing too. Like we need more doctors that look like us.
True. No, true. Very, very, very much so.
Right.
Yeah.
Black doctors make only 5% of the whole population of doctors, which is like
that's not okay. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean there are a lot of efforts being put into that, but
right.
it's definitely needed. Yeah.
Oh, definitely. It is. It is, because I mean, we know. And did you know that in Ghana, remember when people would take chloroquine and they'll have itching? It was because of the melanin, and the pruritus was due to the melanin, and we'll be taking it.
I didn't know that. That's
we were. I learned that in pharmacy school, and then one of my friends was like, "Wow, That's why we always used to itch when
I
we
see.
take chloroquine. And I was like, oh yeah,
Yes.
But I remember that right before I left Ghana, they changed it to artesunate amodiaquine
Mm.
because they like chloroquine is not an
Not that
effective
good.
treatment for because it's not good for black people.
Wow.
It's not good for black people or for brown people. Yeah, so
Yeah.
it's important that that bridge definitely has to happen. It saves lives.
Imagine.
Sometimes doctors don't pay attention to, not to say doctors overlook things, but because they're used to a certain practice, right?
Hmm.
Oh, if the patient has this, give them that. So they overlook certain things. So if there's a pharmacist on board on the team, they can pay attention to those things that can be overlooked because they are
Hmm.
just looking at medication therapy and how effective it is, if we can change some things. And yeah, it's
Yeah.
necessary. Like my father-in-law showed me his meds and I was like, oh my God, why are you
Ooh.
taking all these different things? Because he's taking, sometimes it's duplicate therapy because he's taking like a calcium channel blocker for hypertension, and then there's something else like a diuretic for the same hypertension condition. And I get it that you're trying to lower it as much as possible, but maybe you could give him a combo drug.
Hmm.
Maybe you could suggest it's like prescribing the insurance will actually, what do you call that?
See, that's another thing. Like the insurance companies, it's a whole ball
It's
game
a
with that.
whole nother thing. Yeah.
Anyway,
It's a whole
so
nother
let me
thing.
ask you this question then.
Hmm.
What are some good aspects that surprised you once I mean, you're in the pharmacy field now, so you know the ins and the outs. And then
Yeah.
also, what are the bad aspects of it, that you wish are changed?
Okay, good. I think we touched on insurance, right? Okay, so
Yeah.
the good part is when you come to like community pharmacy, right? Even though chain pharmacies get a bad rep, and we talk about how overworked community pharmacists are, and it's true, community pharmacists are overworked. But I see that there's some changes going on, like in New York. I see that my Walgreens has a mandatory hour lunch hour now. So
Mm.
now they close the pharmacy when it's lunch. But I remember when I used to go on rotations, it wasn't like that. In Jersey, it was like the pharmacists would go sit in like a little corner and eat their lunch because they have to be present in the pharmacy at
Wow.
all times, which is not the best, work environment. But now
Yeah.
they're making these changes, but there's still a long way to go. But let me start with the positives.
Yeah.
The positives is that like with the community pharmacy, right, patients have a direct access to a healthcare professional, right?
Mm.
They can come and be like, oh, like I'm tired of taking this medication or something, and then the pharmacist will be like, oh, like how often do you have to take it? Twice a day, and blah 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 blah. And they're like, okay,
Yeah.
maybe we can suggest that instead of you taking two 10 milligram pills, the doctor can prescribe a 20 milligram because it's available,
I'll
right?
take
So
it.
you can
Right.
take that instead and it will take off the burden of medication because a lot of, especially the geriatric population,
Mm.
they are burdened with the many medications they have to take and the number of times they have to take it. So they end up forgetting. And sometimes they just give up because it's too
Mm.
much on them, right? So with a pharmacist being that accessible, right, especially in the community pharmacy, they're able
Yeah.
to intervene. There's a lot of drug interventions that happen. I've seen pharmacists realize that patients don't need a certain medication therapy anymore,
Mm.
or like give advice on certain things they can do, lifestyle modifications that can help them, so they probably wouldn't need their medication anymore. And
Yeah.
so many interventions that can take place with having access to, pharmacists. And
Mm.
also, when you go into the hospital aspect of things, they definitely help with patient the length of stay that a patient, it's in the hospital for. Like, and then they intervene and looking at their lab, seeing how you can adjust the medication therapy and make their what do you call it, their treatment better, and then
Yeah.
maybe, yeah, shorten their stay in the hospital, and also, give them a better quality of life. So yes, that's the good part of pharmacy. The bad part, we mentioned
The
insurance.
bad. Yeah.
insurance
Uh-huh.
insurance is just a headache. right? It's like, you know, this person needs this. It will make their life 10 times better. The doctor prescribes it. Insurance says no. You know, insurance says prior
Mhm.
auth. Prior authorization takes a week. This person needs this. Like, and it's like, some patients don't get it, that
Mm.
like you can't, I can't go tell you, I can't force your insurance to hasten the process, you know, like things have to take their due course. So insurance is one factor. Two, like
Mm.
the burden of filling prescription, because big pharma, right? All these
Uh-huh.
chain pharmacies, it's all about how much you can get out there, how many medications you can dispense. It's not about you're not really paid for you counseling the patient and trying to get them better quality of life. You're not paid for that. You're paid based. I mean, you're paid for that. Yes, that's part of your job description, right?
Mm.
But your productivity is determined by how many medications you can get, you know, in a number in a day. Like, I
Mm.
know pharmacies that have like 700, and you have to meet that 700, and it becomes such a, like a, how do I say, like so much pressure, like to
Right.
meet that, you
You have
know,
to meet that
that you have
expectation.
to meet that expectation.
Yeah.
And there's also the immunizations don't, it becomes, forget about, oh, you need a flu shot to prevent the flu. Now it becomes, get this number of people to take the flu shot. So now it's like you're just pushing the flu shot. Do you want a flu
Mm.
shot today? Do you want a flu shot today? Do you want, it's like constantly you're
Mm.
badging people. And it's like, it's great, it will help people, but sometimes it's just, you know, it's just like people become robots. And that's why chain pharmacies, chain retail pharmacies get a bad rep because of that.
Yeah.
And what are the downsides of pharmacy? I think that, okay, medications are great, but medications are not always the solution, right?
Okay.
And you know that, right? Like, I remember one
Yeah.
time when I was a student pharmacist, I was working at Stop and Shop Pharmacy, and this guy came in. He works for Sanofi, right? They make all these diabetes medication, and he was diagnosed with diabetes. Guess what he did? He went on a strict diet. He
Mm.
changed his lifestyle completely so that he will not have to be on the medications that he sells to people.
That's interesting.
That's
That's
very
very
interesting.
interesting.
Yeah, so he had lost all this
Yeah.
weight. So my pharmacist was asking him,
Mm.
"Oh, like what did you do?" And he's like, "Oh, I do intermittent fasting now. I work out, all these things." So he reversed his diabetes. So he doesn't have diabetes anymore because he
Nice.
doesn't want to take the same insulin and other medications that his company pay sells to
So to other
people.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying that to say that, I mean, of
Yeah. Go ahead.
course, if people already have the condition, yes, they need to take their medications. But if you're pre-diabetic, if you're
Mm.
borderline, if you're borderline for cholesterol, if you're borderline for anything, any chronic condition, you can we can push for people to do better. But
Yeah.
sometimes I think physicians, and I know that's your people, but sometimes like they just
Yeah. Speak free.
they
Speak free, man.
just want to prescribe and just, you know,
Mm.
keep it pushing, right?
Yeah.
But and sometimes patients don't also listen, you know. But we know that medications have long-term side effects, and
Yeah.
like with diabetic medications, we know that it can affect your pancreas eventually, you know. And um, if you knew that you could do something to reverse a condition
Yeah.
and have a better quality of life, you would rather do that, right?
Mm.
So maybe if there was more education on these things than just like push drugs, push drugs, push drugs, like
Yeah.
that's how I feel, that like these are things that it might not change in pharmacy because that's how people make money, right? But
Yeah.
it might, I mean, it might change our approach to medicine in general. Like more patient
Yeah.
education. Yeah, more patient education. And I know they're pushing that, but sometimes pharmacists are so overwhelmed.
Mm.
They're not doing that. It's just like, oh, do you want counseling? No. And then you hit the button.
Oh man.
You hit the
Okay.
button because you have so
Yeah.
much to do, right? So you just hit the button and then you just go, keep it pushing.
S-
And then if the technician tells
Yeah.
you, oh, somebody's waiting to be counseled, it's like, oh, you know, 'cause but
Yeah,
it could be better. Yeah, I think it
yeah,
could be better.
yeah. Hopefully, the future generation can have an input on that.
I hope so.
Yeah. So this question, it's
Mhm.
quite it's quite a thing. In the medical field. But what do you think about generic drugs? Having the whole patents issue, especially with like the COVID vaccines and all that. Like for poorer countries, like can pretty much extend those patents, and that way they can manufacture the generic
Right,
waste of it and all of that.
right.
And it's not just for the COVID, drugs or vaccines or whatever, but a lot of other diseases. What do you think about this very issue? Yeah.
Okay, so I think the normal period to wait before you can patent a generic drug, before the patent lasts for 20 years, right, on the brand, and then after that you can make the generic, right?
Generic stuff. Yeah.
So sometimes they have the breakthrough and they have the fast track for certain new drugs if there's like a crisis, right? So they can expedite the process.
Yeah.
What do I think of it? I don't think it's necessarily fair, but it's the nature of the beast because these companies have to make their profit, right? They spend money on research. It's at the expense of people's well-being, right?
Mm.
And they feel like, okay, we spend money on research, we spend money on clinical trials, and finally it has been approved. So the 20-year grace gives them a lot of time to capitalize, monopolize, and make their money, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it's fair. Like people that legit people that again are denied by the insurance because these brand medications are expensive,
Mm.
and until the generic comes out, sometimes people have to suffer, or they get the medication and then at some point insurance like I'm not paying for this anymore, and then they have to find maybe some clinical trial
Yeah.
thing that is going on to survive. And there's people that have like all these crazy serious conditions that are like debilitating that they need their medications to survive. So I don't think
Mm.
it's fair. I
Yeah.
wish we lived in a different world where
Right.
honestly, I'm not
Yeah.
always proud of the things that take place in pharmacy and the things that big pharma does,
Yeah.
but it's like I said, it's the nature of the beast, and it's not
Yeah.
always the best thing. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not.
Keep hopes up. All right. So, what while we wrap this up, what is your general advice for pre-meds out there? To encourage them, to be successful. Yeah.
My general advice is that give yourself time, right, to know that this is, first of all, to know that this is a profession that you want to go to. I always
Mm.
tell people that medicine is like a lifelong commitment. You know, your training, because it's like I just found out, I think a couple of months ago, that there's a post fellowship thing. I thought the highest people could go in their training was fellowship, but there's actually a post
Those
fellowship that some
fellowship.
people do. So just imagine
Yeah.
if you spend 4 years in undergrad, 4 years in medical school. Let's say your residency program is maybe 3 4 years. That's already
Mm.
12 years. If you decide to do fellowship, that's another 3 years or
Yeah.
however many years. So you're looking at least like 15 years of your life dedicated to learning and training in the field, right? So first and foremost, make sure it's something that you want to dedicate your life to. Shadow medical doctors and just learn as much as possible about the
Mm.
field, right? And like I said before, seek help. There's a lot of people that are willing to mentor people
Mm.
when it comes to medicine. There's a lot of programs. Even in high school, I had programs. I went to like Saturday programs that helped me. In New York, they have the SMDP. There's also the STEP
Yeah.
programs. There's a lot of programs that you can research into. And in college, also, you have the pre-med advisor. Sometimes you have more than one.
Yeah.
Take advantage of them. Sometimes they are hard to, what do you call it? access, but don't give up. Like if you have to schedule ahead of time, do it. Go see them. Take your classes seriously. I feel like if I had studied the way I did in pharmacy school for undergrad, I would have been doing great. But
You know,
undergrad is like,
you're not the only who says that. A lot of grad students say that. Like,
yeah, because you
that's
realize that you were really not that, studious.
yeah.
Because in grad school, like I said, I'll listen to the recording, take extra notes. But in undergrad, I'm not recording anybody.
Yeah.
I'm not recording anybody. You go to class, you take, even your notes are not that great. And then maybe a week to the exam, you're like, oh, I have to study. We have an exam next week. But that's not how you study. You have to, master the material, make it your own, give it your best, right?
Mm, mm,
And then do the best you can, because if medicine is what you want and you can do it, people have done it, you can do it. There's nobody that's not smart enough to be a doctor. It takes a
right.
lot of hard work
Hard work.
and it takes a lot of dedication. So yeah, pre-med, keep going. The journey along is long, but the journey ahead is long, but take it one day at a time. Like do the
Absolutely.
best you can. Yeah, one semester at a time. Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. Appreciate it. And it's immensely rewarding.
It
Absolutely.
is. It
Yes.
is. For
Yes.
the most part, yeah, it is.
Right. Right. Guys, a happy Thanksgiving to you all. I hope you're enjoying the turkeys and all that good food. See you in Christmas. And bye for now.